Technical sketches? Who in the world needs those? Hi Ethan, today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, sketch details. Ethan, you seem to like sketch details. Why is that?
Hi, Jonathan. Yeah, I like sketching. I do sketch a lot of sketchings in my at my office and at the site, and also I teach when I teach the school. I show how to sketch all to the students because I believe that this is very important skills, and the technical sketch having the skills of technical sketch is how to communicate during the technical meetings, and also when I go to the site, I can show the site person, foreman, or the workers how to build. What are the things? Sometimes they are having difficulty to understand the drawings, so I help them interpret it by that is very important, and very important skills for all the architectural technologists to have it. So it is really, because I also found that some of my students are having struggle of doing sketchings. Actually they are actually, I know that everybody's knows how to sketch, but they are just scared of making mistakes. So the line may not be true, something like that. They have anxiety of sketching. So I told them, don't worry, we can sketch. Everybody can sketch. You just need to have confidence, and maybe a few over time they will pick it up. That's how I do. So that's also I tell you about important sketchings and how to a little bit over to the how to improve over time on the sketching. Yeah.
I mean, one of the things I like about, and we're really talking about the technical sketches, not the three-dimensional
Yes.
observational sketching,
Yes.
which we'll do
Yes.
next week.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
don't forget that when you start designing a building, you need to start thinking right from the outset what the cladding system is and how that cladding system is going to connect to the foundations, how it's going to connect to the windows. And so I like to sketch those details very, very early. Usually even before I start doing some of the planning. I did a renovation of a building the other day. And the first thing I did, even before I started doing very much of the plan, was figuring out how the new walls would tie into the old ones. So how would the new slab tie into the existing slab? Where would that set the line of the cladding? How would that relate to the columns that were on the building? What am I going to have to, am I going to have to extend the slab out? All that kind of stuff. So it gave me the opportunity to just freehand. So they're usually to scale. I use graph paper because it works really well with scale. The graph paper, 5 millimeter graph paper, you can scale it. You can draw 1 to 2, you can draw 1 to 5, and it makes the details really quick. So it
Hmm.
means that I can start looking at the design very early. I can sketch out the details very early. These sketch details, they don't take a long time to draw. You can often
Yeah.
get a sketch detail in 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and it'll then start moving you forward. Because if you start doing a BIM model, you have to know the relationship between the foundation and the
True.
cladding.
True.
And if you don't sketch that detail, you can't actually do that part of the work. How low does the cladding come below the foundation? Well, some of the stuff you need to know, and I see students all the time, they have to put these numbers in and they have no idea what numbers to put in, and that just stops them in their tracks. Whereas a technical detail, a sketch detail, gives them the information they need very early, because there is this relationship between design and details, and you need to resolve the details in order to resolve the design. But in resolving the detail, you might have to change the design, or if you change the design, you have to change the details. So there's always this sort of fluid technical sketching that goes on with your designs. And the
Yeah.
students, I think, don't get it. They, as you say, that they don't know how to put the technical things together. So I have lessons on how do you draw a detail. Start with what you know, put in the foundations, put in the framing, put the cladding on it, look up the cladding, put the cladding on, and just get them started with drawing these sketch details.
Yeah.
Before
So
we had CAD,
that's good. Yeah. All
well,
drawing
before
by.
we had CAD, Ethan, I was working as an architect and I had draftsmen working for me. So I used to
Mm-hmm.
sketch, like 6 details in a morning, give them to the draftsman, and that would be his work for the rest of the day, or sometimes even the rest of the week. If they were very complex drawings. And,
Mm-hmm.
I had 6 guys working for me, and I just had to keep feeding them work. And I developed a real ability to create these sketch details quickly, meaningfully, with enough
Mm-hmm.
information that they could then go on and draw them. Of course, in those days, we were drawing with pens and ink and, tracing paper, and it took a bit longer. But if you compare
Yeah.
the time it takes for you to sketch the detail to the time it takes to CAD it, it's much quicker to sketch.
Yes, it's always much quicker to sketch, and very, it's very efficient to communicate with everybody's when you and another what you just mentioned is I just found out, the famous architect Mies van der Rohe, he quoted, God is in the details. So that's how you approach it, right?
Yeah, that's a famous
Because
quote from Mies van der Rohe. But when you look at
yeah,
some of his details, you think maybe the devil got in there.
oh well. That's how Mies van der Rohe beautifully coded, and it has been recorded all over the world, and
Yeah.
so but anyway, I like your approach, because the way you start from the details, how you want, instead of concept design, you say, okay, I want to build a drawings with the claddings, or some brick claddings, be glass cladding, etc., and you just build it up. So this, and also yeah, it's very relevant nowadays, like BIM, because you need to, before you start anything, you need to know what kind of wall you want to build, because the parameter wall you need to define, and what is the details of the wall, what is the thickness. Otherwise, you need to redo a lot. And of course, designing is iteration process. There are a lot of iterations involved. You have to redo, draw, and redraw again, and you over time you are adding more details. And if you're being an architect so sorry, so many things. Being an architect, or being a lead draftman, you need to know how to sketch, like what you mentioned, because that makes people busy. And also, when I was a young draftman, my boss, he gave me a design, and he explained to me the nature, which is I'm grateful when I look back, because as a young architect, as a young draftman came architect, I have no idea what these details means. I know what I can do a monkey job. What he showed, I draw. That's I can do a monkey job. That's fine. However, uh, if he, his explanations really help. So I can say, okay, oh, this is what the real life look like, and it's more meaningful over time. At the time, I was thinking like, oh, this old guy is just talk. I was young and naive. I wasn't appreciated, but over time, maybe 4 or 5 years on, I can explain other people. Okay, this is what I'm doing. This will happen. I need this. No, I can, detail sketch, technical sketch, a lot of detailed informations, that the column size, the wall thickness, building ramp, etc., etc., etc. And it's also good for memory, because what comes after next. And also, and also I work as a contractors, so it's also helped me to prepare the scheduling, etc., because I know what comes after next, right? So technical sketch are really, really important. And also not just designing, is also for the construction management as perspective. So that's what I think of that also, addition to what you said and what I just mentioned earlier.
Yeah, and one of the things you brought up was that BIM requires that level of information that often we haven't got when we're at the concept stage. We have to start doing the technical sketches to give us the information that we need to complete the BIM model. Because in a way, we're going to talk about BIM modeling sometime in another session. But one of the important things I think about the BIM modeling is that we end up front loading the design. we actually do a lot of work in the early stages of the design that the fee doesn't support. And the idea is supposed to be that you are costing, maybe you're losing money on that stage of the fee, and the hope is that later on in the project you'll make more money in the fee because you've done some of that work. But that work that you're front loading still requires you to have some idea, some knowledge, and that's what the technical sketches are really for, is to give you that stuff. They don't take a lot of time to do, and if you're working in a collaborative world, then they're fantastic because you can give those details to somebody, then they can develop those details into ArchiCAD drawings or Revit drawings that you can then share in your drawings.
Yeah, true. It's that the difference between BIM and the CAD is that one, because CAD you can define a wall as a two lines, and that two lines mean a wall. But nobody's later on we figure it out, what wall is it, be it a timber wall, be it a brick wall or masonry cladding, etc., etc. But Revit, you need to do front loading for everything, not just for the architectural, it's also for the construction management, etc. So that's really that's make a big difference for workflow. And 10 years ago, I was studying BIM and the nature of BIM. At that time they offer a lot of software. Okay, I think I shouldn't do it because this is more about sketching. So I think I'm off topic already. Maybe shall we start again?
No, let's just wrap up that part. But we agree. Yeah. I think that the technical sketches are really required in order to help develop that BIM model, that they're not just a nice thing to have. To me, that there's some real fundamentals to it. One is you need it for the BIM model. Number two, you can resolve the design more easily because the details are part of the design. And so once you start, and I do think you need to get past the concept first. You can't there's no point doing the technical sketches until you've got some idea of the form of the building. But once you start thinking about the form of the building and the materials, that's the point where you need to start thinking about these technical sketches. Because as soon as you know that you're using vertical profiled metal cladding or vertical, or profiled metal roofing, you can then start to resolve some of those technical sketches straight away. And then as you start to input the details into the CAD model or to the BIM model, then you need that information anyway. As I said, we need to know whether, are we covering the joists, what's going on. But the details, you do sketch details. And the other thing, of course, is that if you're working as an architectural technologist with an architect, then often the easiest way to communicate with that architect is to sketch out your understanding of the detail and then discuss it with the architect. And one of the sketches or one of the slideshows I've got is a series of sketches between me and the architect where we actually had a complex thing to resolve, and he was trying to get me to explain, and I sketched the detail. No, cross that one out. No, we're going and then we do it this way. Yep, we agree we're going to do it this way. But how can you agree that without having a technical sketch to talk about?
Yes, so that's go back to my first point, is that technical sketch are important for the communicating between parties. And another thing, what you mentioned is really, what you bring me up is that it's at the schools, it's more important for the teachers to train the students how to sketch, how to understand the detailings. Before as the drafting is more on the concept of how to draw a perimeter wall on the plan, elevations and the sections. Now it's like to draw, because of the technologies requires the students to understand more on the technical details, because they need to know how these items works together. Otherwise they can't build the model, because it's like building in BIM is like, even though we are talking about sketch, ultimately they need to use it when they go to the industry, and they need to understand how to do in the market. So maybe their drafting lead or the architects like what you mentioned, need to draw, sketch, and say, hey, architectural technologists, you just do this, 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 this. So yeah, that's quite interesting. And yeah, it's still the basics, the sketching, technical sketching is still important. Even the days of technologies like BIM or other software, maybe I don't know what will happen in the futures, but it is still relevant, I believe, and it is still
Well,
important.
I mean, don't forget that sometimes the technical sketches are the resolution of the design, and AI is
Yes,
not going to solve that for us. I don't think. Not
and
this year anyway. Maybe soon, but not straight away.
yeah,
And the other thing that I mean, to be blunt, one of the things I've said to my students is that if you can get really good at technical sketches, at the drafting out the details, you can be worth more money because you're
and
leading the design.
yes, yes, true. And most of the time in the technical meeting, we can't draw by BIM or AutoCAD. The meetings happens between the client and architect, between the clients and the architect and other stakeholders, be it contractors. Something. That's it. We sketch and explain.
Hmm.
Okay, we will do it. You agreed? I agree. Sign on the sketch. We go and build it, or we do it.
Yeah,
That's it.
you go to the site and the contractor goes, "You didn't do this detail. What's happening here?" Oh, hold on a minute. Let me just go home and I'll get my Revit going and I,
Now,
no, you need to be able to resolve it often on the spot.
yeah, that's how is it. All the meetings happens with architect clients in the meeting room. Is that sketch it, sign it, record it, done. Go back and build. That's really
So
important as more efficient.
we could wrap up and just say we both agree technical sketches are still really important, absolutely needed for communication, for design, for modeling. We do need to teach it. We need to teach it well.
Yes, yes, right. All right. Thank you so much for today's discussions, and
You're
see you
welcome. It's a
later
really good
next week.
discussion. Thanks, Ethan.
Thank you. Bye.